Are Bambu Lab printers as good as everybody is saying? Printers that have extrusion issues, Vorons that are deciding that print should be slightly askew, and actual wet filament caught on camera as it's occurring. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 42. Don't panic. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Remember, if you're new here and you like weird Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy references, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. There are a lot of them in this video. Let me know how many you can find down in those comments below. But this is YouTube's longest running weekly print fail fix series. So if you want to get your fails featured in here and have me or anyone on the team take a look at it, you can tag us on all the social medias, links of course in the description and on screen, and you can use the hashtags PrintFix. But we're going to start off today with a Bambu Lab failure from Nero 3D, who has a bit of a clogged poop chute. There's medicine for that, Nero. Then we move into a submission from one of our awesome Patreon supporters who has a Voron that decided things should be a little bit different. After that, we move into a resin failure where the bottom layers are welded so tight to that build plate that even a scraper can't get them free. From then, we move into more resin, but all about supports and where and when and how you should use them. From there, we have another Bambu Lab failure, this one coming from Joel Telling, who has his entire cable chain come apart, as well as the wires get very soft during his first print with carbon fiber nylon. That one's curious, and I have some things to say about it. And then we hit one of my failures, but it's an expected failure: wet filament. Nylon that isn't dry, and actually being able to catch it in full resolution as it is popping and hissing and actually creating steam as it's being extruded from the printer. And last but not least, we end on a fan submission from local maker MI, who's having some bed leveling problems after making some upgrades to their printers. But you know what isn't always leveled? Our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. Is that a self-dig? Is that self-deprecating CTA? We're gonna go with it. If you are tired of failing in 3D printing, we know it can be frustrating. As long as you know where your towel is, everything should be okay. But if you're kind of tired and you don't want to deal with this anymore, you can reach out to the pros at 3D Musketeers. We have almost 40 printers and over 40 years of experience helping you, the user, get from where you are to where you want to be. And if you have a small business and you're looking to do print farming, hit us up. We're going to be making a few of our printers to be fully automated with the 3DQ system coming up here as well. And this weekend, we have 2 live streams coming at you guys. One of an unboxing of a Snapmaker A350T that we got in for review. And we're going to be talking to the entire team from 3DQ that makes the Quinley system, which is amazing if you've never seen it. I'm really excited to talk to both of them. And if you want to support some of these efforts that we do here to make these live streams more frequent and more possible, you can do so by supporting us over at Patreon, patreon.com/3dmusketeers, where you can kick as low as $1 into that creator fund every single month. And being that it is the first of the month, it is the perfect time to go out and support your favorite creators out there in the digital world. People that you get files from, content creators that you love their videos, whatever it might be. A couple of bucks really helps to making all the effort that we put into these things absolutely worth it. But we understand that not everybody can afford it, so a like and subscribe and a share or two goes a long way to helping this channel grow. We greatly appreciate your support. Anyways, let's get into these fails and getting them fixed. Next up from my buddy Nero 3D, as the meme goes, shitter's full. Merry Christmas! The front fell off. It's not typical. I'd like to make that point. Now, these printers are smart and designed to handle anything, but in this case, the front fell off, which is very unusual because of a blob of filament hit it, chance in a million. Well, come to find out, it's not a chance in a million. This is actually probably one of the more likely failures you are to have with a Bambu Lab printer, which their Kickstarter just finished. So congratulations, guys. As of recording this video, they're just under 7 million. I have a feeling they'll be taken across that edge. But we can see here that the poop chute on it, yes, the printer poops, got jammed full. And that could be because it's up against a wall and it's not draining properly. Maybe some of the little bits that it extrudes got stuck in there and just built up slowly. But the nice thing about this printer is that the entire front of the machine is held on by magnets. So in the event that it does run into something, it's going to pop the front cover off. This is good because it keeps the motion system from getting damaged. Yes, the print got damaged. Who cares? It's a lot easier to reprint than it is to fix a printer. And this, you clip it right back on and you should be good to go. But this is something for those to note that are getting these printers. You need to make sure that that chute is completely cleared out and not backing up full of material. I'm hoping that with their AI system that Bambu Lab is working on, that it can detect when that chute starts to get full and be able to stop the printer before these errors occur. I don't think this is 1 in a million. In fact, I've seen multiple people that have had this problem. I believe Uncle Jesse is one of them as well. And with so few of these units out in the open right now, I think this will be one of the more common problems that we see with these printers. And if that's the case, that's a pretty easy problem to solve as far as problems go in this industry, because the rest of that print looks really, really good. A little clogging. No big deal. And apparently, it's Uncle Jesse's 4th time seeing it. And that was a little bit ago. Next, we move into a submission from our Patreon. JL Stern submitted this, and it is his Voron V0 that got a little bit upset. This Voron has skipped a couple of steps. Why? We don't know. But the thing with Core XY printers, because their motors are stationary and each motor has to move the printer in X or in Y, it means that when you lose steps, you generally lose them on a 45 because it's only one motor that loses steps. But it appears that he's lost steps in a few different directions here. Likely some bulging of a part on the build plate. It's not really that common, but you do need to be careful when you're printing. And because it is a Voron, I'm going to assume it's ABS. Maybe it warped up or something like that. But this one's pretty easy. You gotta know where one's towel is, and it should be no problem at all. But seriously, in a case like this, just restart it. I'm guessing that it just ran into part of the print. This stuff happens. Big support layer wouldn't come off from my scraper. What do? You lower your exposure. In cases like this, where your bottom layers are completely welded to your build plate for resin printing, it is likely because you have overexposed the printer. Some things to do first is start running the cones of calibration from Table to Foundry. We recently interviewed Ty. We'll card to that video so you guys can take a look at it. It's a good one, talking all about not just the current cones, but the future of the cones. We all know it is all about the cones.
It's about the cones.
But this is likely from a heavily overexposed first layer, causing it to weld itself to the build plate. Another awesome upgrade that you can make is a Wham Bam flex plate or a flex plate from your preferred vendor. We did interview the owner of Wham Bam. We'll card to his episode as well. We had a coupon code, but it has since expired. So if you do want to go there, go shop there with confidence. But make sure you read the instructions, as we saw last week on PrintFixFriday, which I'll card to as well. Look at that, 3 cards in one go. If you don't wait the appropriate amount of time for the glue to bond to the build plate itself, your magnetic layer that the flex plate sticks to is not going to stick to your build plate, causing it to peel up, causing you to have failed prints. So let's recap on this one. Flex plate, tune in your exposure and minimally turn it the frig down, and hopefully things will start to go a little bit better. Noob here, can I print my maps like this without failing, or should I make them straight using more supports? The answer is no, you should not do either of those things. What we're looking at are maps that are leaned a little bit, and this is inside of Cheetu Box. First problem, don't use Cheetu Box. Go to Lychee Slicer. It's better. I promise. We actually recently interviewed the team from Lychee Slicer, as well as done many videos on that slicer. And if that doesn't help you understand how amazing it is, I don't know what will. But we can find that entire playlist linked in the description down below. The problem that we have here is that we have nowhere near enough support even for the way this is. My recommendation would be to print one map at a time or rotate them so that you can run them along the short axis of the printer. You don't want supports from one part touching another. It's not generally considered the right way to do things. It is possible, but you run the risk of the support not sticking on one of the two ends. Versus support only touching the build plate, which is much higher chance of success. If you would want to do something like this, you would need to make sure that you support it all the way up the backside as well. Because what's going to happen is there's nowhere near enough contact patch to that bed of your printer itself, to that build plate. And as it starts to print, your print is going to start to wiggle. So if you don't have enough supports giving it that extra stability where it needs it, you're going to find that the print is either going to quite simply fall off and break, or it's going to look like an absolute wiggled disaster. So one more time, let's recap on this. Ditch Chi to get Lychee. Look at reorienting potentially to allow you to fit more than 2 pieces on the plate at once. Add more supports. You absolutely need to add more supports to this to make sure that it doesn't come off the build plate. But don't panic. I've got faith in you. And then finally, also make sure to have more support at the initial starting layers of the part. You want to have lots of support down there so that those peel forces don't rip the main part away from the support material itself. I'd rather be cleaning up supports than cleaning out a vat, because my part has fallen into it. It's my personal preference. But I am also not the likes of Charo Zuck, the guys from Atlas, or Ty from Table Flip Foundry. I'm nowhere near as good as supporting as they are. Next up, we got a fail from Joel telling the 3D printing nerd. If you don't know his channel, go over, get subscribed. It's an awesome channel, and Joel is an amazing dude. I look forward to meeting him very soon, hopefully up at Earth. All goes well, we're going to Earth. He says, finally trying carbon fiber nylon in the Bambu X1 Carbon. Hot end is jammed. Chamber temps hit 50C, which made the cable chain soft enough to come apart. The USB cable inside it is also softer than it should be. Yikes. It's got over 9,000 views. Let's take a look.
Okay, I'm not comfortable using this machine anymore. Like, I don't get it. Like, this cable chain, it came out and everything feels really squishy. And that's the USB cable providing power to that. And I am not okay with this.
This is all a problem, but one that I've never seen on the Bambu Lab printer before. 50C chamber temp should not be a problem at all. In fact, I actually think it's a little cold for nylon. Cables should not have any issues up to at least 85C, but if they're running those cables pretty hot to begin with, you might be getting close to where they start to get a little bit soft. Bambu Lab does use the USB-C connector, but they're not using USB protocol. So they're just using the connector as an easy means for hot swapping in the case of replacements. And it makes the cables quite a bit smaller. But when you do try to punch that much power through such a small cable, it can heat up. And dealing with this cable chain the way that it is, I don't know if this was caused by the 50C chamber temp. I'm guessing this is going to be some sort of iGoose cable chain or just cable chain from another manufacturer. What I believe is more likely here, and what I've seen on my own custom printers that run sideways cable chain like this, is that if your wires get too heavy, so maybe your wires got a bit soft, it can actually just cause it to pop out and fall out like you see there. Is this a risk? Kind of. Technically, it's still fine as long as it doesn't run into anything or as long as it doesn't have a problem of some sort. If it does, then we've got ourselves an issue. So if it runs into its own cables or the cable gets hot enough to start getting really molten or something, but I'm not exactly certain that would happen here. Maybe running into its own cable, especially with how fast these machines move, the cable chain is not really to keep any strain down, but more to constrain the cable from whipping around like crazy, as this thing can move upwards of 2 meters per second. And if you haven't seen these Bambu Lab printers print, they're very fast, but these weird QC issues that I see, and don't get me wrong, this could absolutely be isolated because there are only a few of them out there. But with Bambu Lab going so quickly into starting to ship printers and have already started producing them before their Kickstarter has ended, it tells me that maybe some of this R&D has not been done. That's why I never backed it. Also, I'm not a huge fan of Kickstarters. And for the extra 250 bucks, I'll wait until they can get some of these kinks figured out. But 50C chamber temp should not be a problem. In fact, we had our entire Prusa Mini inside of a heated chamber that was routinely hitting 50C. In fact, I registered it at the hottest to be 67 degrees centigrade. So close to being nice. But that is really hot for a Prusa Mini. In fact, I was incredibly curious to see if it was going to fail, and it did not. It actually printed perfectly fine over 2 days of polycarbonate prints constantly. And that tells me that something here might be a little bit off. So what could it be? It could be that the cable chain was a little bit loose, the heat made it a little bit softer, and it just pulled apart. Could be something really basic. Or as it's heating up, the wire is becoming less stiff, and that drooping is causing excess weight on the cable chain, causing it to come apart as well. I don't know. And with Joel saying that it happened within 10 minutes, that to me is what worries me, is the time frame. One, I don't think the chamber is going to get to 50C that quickly. You'd have to have a really big heater and most likely a fan to move that heat around. They don't use the politicians, so not exactly certain what they're doing. They do have a very nice, large internal fan that could be spreading around the heat, but I don't know. I haven't seen what the process is for printing in carbon fiber nylon on the Bambu, so take that with a grain of salt. But within 10 minutes, I'm a little weary that maybe the connection on the USB-C side is a little loose, causing excess resistance in the wire, causing it to heat up, causing it to droop. It's just like multiple causes that get together. Is it mostly harmless? I think so. This might be an isolated case, but the people that are backing, I'm hoping that they're seeing these things. And the fact that I don't really see a ton from Bambu Labs about addressing these problems. It would be really refreshing if they were responding, saying, you know, check this, check that. And maybe they are privately, but as someone that has kind of watches from the outside, no print or anything like that, it would be nice to see something coming direct and public from Bambu Labs. Next, we're going to move into a failure of mine. Well, not so much a failure, more of what wet filament actually looks and sounds like. I was able to capture this. We had a couple of clogs in the Diamondback nozzle, and to remove it, you need to cold pull with nylon. Have some nylon. It's been in a sealed bag, but I bought it sight unseen and used. It was probably wet when I had it. And nylon, being particularly hygroscopic, is very susceptible to getting wet. Check this out. This is what wet filament sounds like. This is Tallman nylon. That's a little wet. You can even see it bubbling. You can see it steaming, popping and hissing. That is actually wet filament. If your filament's not doing that, chances are it's not wet. But this is nylon. It's really hygroscopic. You can see the little bubbles in it. That's because the water is expanding as it gets hot. We can even see the little puffs of steam coming off of it, and you can hear the little pops and clicks as that steam is instantly boiling. That, ladies and gentlemen, is wet filament. And it's nylon. Nylon is notorious for getting wet. It's just the way that it goes sometimes. So we've got it in an active dryer right now, and it's been in there for over 2 days, and I plan on leaving it in there for another couple of days. The drier you can get nylon, generally speaking, the happier it will be. I also threw a ton of desiccant in there because I intend to put lots of desiccant back in the bag of the nylon. It is not Tallman's fault. It is not the fault of the manufacturer. It is because it likely was outside of its bag for more than a registered amount of time here in Florida, which is very, very damp. So what can be done to solve this problem? Well, never leave your nylon outside of a dryer. It's either in a vacuum sealed bag with desiccant or it's in a dryer. If you're printing, print directly out of the dryer. That's about the only advice that I can give for nylon. Or dehumidify your entire room so you're sub 10% ambient humidity. I don't know about you, but I don't want it to feel like Arizona inside of my house. That one's up to you guys, though. Last but not least, we've got a fan submission from local maker MI. They're switching from a 1.0 millimeter nozzle to a 0.6, trying to dial it in, and it has been a lot of work. Apparently, they need to clean the bed a bit better. And also, since adding the E3D Hemera to the CR10V2, the print isn't centered on the bed. So remember, you guys can use the hashtag PrintFixFriday, PrintFailFriday, or just tag us on social media. That's really the best way for me to see it, is just tag us on all the social medias. So a couple of things here. Hemera. The Hemera is likely wider and offset than your previous hot end. So make sure you add an offset into your slicer. That will get your parts back to being centered. This does mean, though, that you're going to lose some distance on the bed, so be careful about that one. I looked at this for a while and ultimately decided that it's likely too close all over. We can see at the edges here, it looks like it's got ridges. Remember, ruffles have ridges, and that means they're too close to the bed. I don't see any valleys. What I'm also seeing is, like they were saying, a potentially dirty bed that is causing some of these issues. But they might also be over extruding. I can absolutely see that based on the thickness of the line back here and how it's a little wavy, that they're too close. I just think this printer isn't properly aligned. And that's okay. It's a relatively easy fix, but yeah, keeping your bed clean is important, and especially with these PEI flex plates. If you're not getting the stick that you were used to, some high grit sandpaper, like 3,000, 2,000 grit or higher, no less than 2,000. A little bit of water, a little bit of alcohol, and some very light Mr. Miyagi work over here, you will get better grip. Now understand, that could be too much grip, so be careful. I'm not your mother, take it with a grain of salt. But I would absolutely look at cleaning that bed with hot water and dish soap, not touching it, putting it back on the build plate, getting everything aligned and level, and verifying that the build plate itself is not warped. If it is, there's not an easy way to fix this. Some people will put glass on their build plates. That can make up for a warped bed, but that also means you get less contact to that warped bed, so you're not getting a lot of heat transfer. But I would also look at, because the Hemera is considerably heavier, and from my understanding, the CR10V2 is a Bowden printer and they went to a direct drive, that the system isn't sagging as it's moving in certain directions, causing the nozzle to get a little bit closer in some areas than other. There are a lot of potential problems here, and we can start by working on them systematically. To me, clean the bed first. It's the easiest thing to do. Then, before you start a new print, verify that bed is level. If the bed is level, more specifically tram, we're going to get into that in a future video, so get subscribed if you want to really learn more about the nitty-gritty of bed tramming and why it's called tramming and not leveling. And then if your bed is tram and everything appears to be nice and flat, heat up that bed. And the bed should be hot when you're doing all this anyways. I prefer it to be warm because it will be bowed, whereas when it's cold, it's kind of sitting at stasis normal. If all of that stuff checks out and there are no issues, then I would look at my extrusion. You might be over extruding a little bit. Your steps per millimeter might have changed and you never updated it when adding the Hemera. These are all things to look at. Not all of them are complicated, but together it can be a little bit overwhelming. So local maker MI, I hope you're gonna watch this video. I know you're gonna watch this video. You're normally hanging out in the comments, so thank you for that. But let me know how this goes for you. And if we need to, we'll hop on a quick call. You're a buddy, and we'll get this thing sorted out for you, lickety-split. But let me know down in those comments what you guys think of these fails. The Don't Panic Edition, episode 42, of course. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. So long, and thanks for the fish. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope that you got the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. And a massive thank you goes out to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel member supporters. Remember, if you want to join the elite group of Musketeers whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier or higher, you can click on the Patreon link in that description down below, or you can click the join button. Remember, it's the first of the month, and that is the best time to start supporting creators out there. Right below me will be the entire Print Fix Friday series, so you can go back and look at some of the other fails and what they look like. And right next to that will be my video on how to start a 3D printing business, where I talk all about The Politician, something that is going to be open to our Patreon supporters. I'll see you all down in those comments, and in the next one, take care.